Welcome once again to this week's edition of The Link. We promise to give you information you can use and opportunities. Tonight we're discussing information you can use. Personal things, personal information. And my guest tonight is Miss Edna Kasozi, Manager Licensing and Legal Affairs, Personal Data Protection Office. In other words, tonight we're discussing personal data, and there is a law to that effect. Edna, take us through briefly the scope of the data protection law as we have it today, especially in as far as companies and businesses are concerned.
Thank you very much. Data protection is protected by the Personal Data and Privacy Act of 2019 and supported by the Personal Data Protection and Privacy Regulations that came into force in 2021.
Okay.
And these regulations highlight the personal data that institutions or companies collect, data that can identify an individual. And this data is data that can identify one by their age, by their sex, data that can identify an individual by their academics, by their physical address, by their national ID. That's the kind of data we are talking about.
Okay.
So these laws kind of highlight and clearly stipulate the policies and guidelines and processes that are supposed to be in place when anybody, an institution, any business entity is collecting personal data for any person. We usually refer to personal data of a person as the data subject. A data subject is somebody whose personal data is collected by somebody who is maybe doing marketing, somebody who's going to do research.
Okay.
That's what the personal data is all about.
All right. Very interesting. So, who really is affected by this law? Give us a little bit of depth there. People sometimes imagine that data collectors, I must be online. Give us a scope. Does that stop it? Does it stop there? Who is impacted by this law?
This law impacts each and every one, but most importantly, either individual.
Okay.
How does it affect me? If it's my data that is collected and it is mismanaged or used inappropriately, I am at a danger of, people who are not supposed to have my data accessing it and maybe using it to maybe commit fraud. There is a lot of cybercrime.
Absolutely. So,
me as an individual, I have to ensure that my data, if it's collected by an organization, a hospital, a bank, they have policies and guidelines in place that govern the collection, the processing, and the storage of my data.
Okay. Sometimes if, for instance, I have a small business and I have a visitor's book, am I impacted by this law, for instance?
Ideally, in such a situation, me, the data subject, it is my right to say, to choose and say I will either write in this book or I won't write in this book.
Yes.
It's not mandatory and nobody's going to force you. If maybe you just write your name, and once you write your name, you write the message, maybe condolence or get well soon or something like that.
Okay.
But I don't think it's mandatory that when I go to write in a visitor's book in somebody's home, I'm mandated to, put my name, my number, my signature.
Even if the gaps are there, that your name, your number.
But then there is an exception.
Okay.
When you're going to any public office, even some private offices, there is that book at the reception.
Yeah, I know. I've made those books.
And they even ask you for your national ID. So what happens to all that information that those people capture? Yes, we usually have a guard or two there, and there's this big book that they have.
Yeah.
What happens to that personal data?
We never know.
You put there, because you put your name, your address, your mobile number, where you're coming from.
Yeah.
what happens to that data? So we call upon, first and foremost, the data collectors. These are the public institutions, because, I mean, they are in the service industry. They give us basic services. You go to a school, you have to register. You go to a hospital, a bank, you may register.
Yeah.
That is why the Personal Data Protection Office mandates public entities to have in place policies that guide and spell on how they protect this personal data.
Okay.
You understand? By protecting this personal data, yes, they collect this data, and they also maybe process or analyze or research and maybe destroy this data in a manner that is compliant with the law.
Okay. All right. So, what are my rights? Okay, they have collected my data. I've gone to hospital or school, and information is there, maybe for my child and all that. What are my rights, me the owner? You call it the data subject.
Yes.
What are my rights in as far as my information is concerned in the law?
Under the law, you as a data subject, you the person whose data is being collected, you have a right to know the person. The person has to identify themselves.
Okay.
Why are they collecting your data? If they identify themselves, you have to know why they are collecting this data. For what specific particular reason are they collecting this
Why
data?
asking me to write in this book?
Yes. And you also have a right to know whether you can opt out of, providing this data.
Okay.
You have a right to know how this data is going to be kept and for maybe how long it's going to be kept.
Okay.
So you want to understand that these people are collecting this data responsibly. There has to be some kind of accountability. Yes.
But I have also obligations.
Yes.
I have rights, but there's something required of me. Take us through that now.
Rights and obligations, yes, go hand in hand. So it's your obligation as a person to ensure that the person collecting your data is doing it in a responsible way, in a transparent manner, in an ethical way. We should, as organizations and institutions, I think, at a minimum, you need to assure the data subjects, all the people that you collect data from, that you're doing it in a responsible manner. You're collecting data, and this data is collected for a particular purpose. And when you communicate that particular purpose, let it be that particular purpose. Let it not stretch to other, network marketing. Right now, with
I have a book
everybody receives so many random messages.
Yes.
You do not know where these messages are coming from. Somebody is informing you that there is new stock. Somebody is selling solar panels. There is new stock. So you wonder how these people have access to your personal data, and by that I'm talking about somebody's mobile number.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Now, speaking of compliance, earlier on before we came on air, we were speaking about it seems clearly that all schools, all universities, all hospitals. Let's talk about compliance. Coming to you, what does compliance entail when I come to the Personal Data Protection Office?
Compliance entails, one, having a policy, a mechanism in place that details who collects the data, how it is collected, how it is stored and protected. And in addition, this responsibility is allocated to a specific person who we call a data protection officer.
Okay.
An institution is supposed to designate a data protection officer who is charged with this role of ensuring that, yes, the organization is compliant, they have the certificate of compliance in place.
Okay.
In addition to that, yes, they've shown us that they have a data protection policy, but there has to be somebody who ensures that whatever is on paper is implemented, is put in practice.
Okay.
This is a person who just has to understand and appreciate personal data protection and what it's all about.
Okay.
Yes.
If I am, wondering, okay, what are the steps I need to do? How do you assist me? The steps to be compliant. I'm sitting here watching and saying, Edna is saying these things. How do I do it? How can you assist me as the Personal Data Protection Office?
Okay, thank you so much. For somebody who wishes to register, I would encourage them to log on to our website, www.pdpo.go.ug.
Say that again slowly.
Sorry. I would encourage whoever, all our listeners, all the people who are watching in, to log onto our website, www.pdpo.go.ug/register. It will open a page that you have to navigate step by step. There are very simple procedures that you have to follow to register with the Data Protection Office. And once this registration is complete, you're issued a certificate of compliance, which right now, by the way, is going to become, or has already become, a mandatory for many of the regulators that we have. The Personal Data Protection Office has collaborated with other regulators, and we want to work hand in hand to ensure that the people that are regulated by all the regulators, like our National Data Protection Office, as Uganda Revenue Authority, Uganda Communications Commission, that they are compliant with the Personal Data Protection Office. You do appreciate that these regulators deal with service providers that collect
millions
personal data. So best practice guidelines, you're encouraged to please make time, navigate our web page to understand data protection. Registration, there are easy steps onto our page for you to register with the data protection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edna, for that. Viewers, you realize there are many issues we could have dealt with, but because of time. But you have had the address. Please go there, and I'm sure there are contacts there. If you go there and you feel you still have questions, there is a contact us section. Get hold of the Personal Data Protection Office. Sooner or later in business is going to be a mandate, and it's important that we comply. It's part of the issues around compliance. And it will be nice for you to comply, because then you can show that I am fully legal or legit, if you like. That was the link. We hope we added value to you. Thank you for joining us tonight.